Good evening, Cheese Room, and what a difference a week makes. Welcome to this Friday night Cheese Room show. You've got me hosting tonight, filling in for Caller, who is earning a well-deserved weekend away. Joining me tonight, we have got the Cheese Room mainstay of every single show in the week, HG. HG, how have you been?
Yeah, because I'm the only one who doesn't seem to have a life, it appears. But I am all right. Nothing much has changed here. But yeah, Spurs seem to be either last 1 week or first the next, and we're on first this weekend, so it should be good to talk Spurs.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And John, it's been a while since we've been on, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've had a summer break. I was hosting last week, and I'm back now whenever I can. Although I'm out in the garage, and it's 10 degrees, so I'm a little bit layered up. I've got my old man blanket here as well on my lap, and hopefully things will hot up as we go.
Have you got an alcoholic drink or tea or coffee?
No. I'm on water. I'm on water at the moment. I've entered my first marathon in April, so I'm sort of marathon training doesn't officially start for a few weeks, but I've actually run the last 6 days, and I'm running both Saturday and Sunday, so I'm being good. Sorry, HG. Far too.
No, I mean, I wanted to say a joke about you starting tomorrow to finish the marathon in April. Because then I might join you if I've got until April to finish. But no, look, I'm just jealous. I wish I could get myself into that kind of gear.
Yeah, excellent. And special guest, Dave from Talking Wolves. Dave, good to have you back on the show. I know you've been on before. Talk us through, how are you and how's things as a Wolves fan right now?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you guys. A pleasure to be back on again. Things are okay, yeah. I mean, sort of cast our mind back sort of 8 to 10 weeks ago when the season started. I think it was all sort of doom and gloom around Molineux, and obviously things could be better, but it's going better than planned at the moment. And obviously looking forward to another cracking game at Molineux, hopefully tomorrow.
Cracking game at Molineux. Yeah, should be good. All right, well, let's get straight into it. Obviously, if you're watching, please do like and please do subscribe if you aren't a subscriber already. We've got Patreon channels, so feel free. Details are scrolling across the bottom of the screen, so have a look at that and please do join if you so wish. Definitely like and definitely subscribe as a minimum, though. So on a day when Ange Postecoglou picked up his third Manager of the Month award in a row, my question, starting with you, HG, is: will he get a fourth?
Yes. What do you mean, no, John? Shaking your head.
He already lost the game.
No, but
we lost the first game of the month.
Oh, do you mean in a row? I just thought he'll get another one at some point.
In a row.
In a row, no. In a row, no. But otherwise, yeah, of course he's going to get a fourth.
Oh, yeah, he'll get a fourth, yeah.
Oh, no, now you change your tune. Oh,
no, in a row. In a row.
Who says yes. No, fourth in a row, no, he won't. It will go to Pep because, that's what happens. But no, I don't think it'll be 4 in a row.
John, when will he win the next Manager of the Month then? Give us a prediction.
Well, Maddison and Van der Ven are back in January, February, maybe February or March. We'll go with that.
Okay.
It's usually February because it's the shortest month and we don't play that many games. That's usually how Spurs win Manager of the Month. So yeah, when's the next international break? March? Let's go with that.
End of March.
Sounds good. Dave, as a Wolves fan looking in, I guess, to Tottenham and the start of Ange Postecoglou, what was your initial impressions of us appointing Ange, and how have you found him? Have you been surprised by him, or where are you at with the Ange Postecoglou train?
I like the appointment a lot. We actually sort of make predictions on our podcast sort of about the Premier League at the start of the season, and my prediction was that Spurs would get top 4. I like Postecoglou. I think he's somebody that Wolves apparently looked at when Bruno Lage went about 12 months ago, and for whatever reason, obviously he didn't want to leave Celtic mid-season. And obviously he's made the right decision. So I think it was a brave appointment from Spurs because, no disrespect to Celtic in the Scottish League, I think, throughout his whole career, he's won things, he's won trophies, but it's a big step up to manage, what people would class as a top 6 team in the Premier League. So a bit of both, really. I'm not surprised because I think he's a winning manager, but, and Spurs they've always had a quality squad, but it's just struggled to get that consistency. And I thought there might be sort of a period where he slowly needs to get used to the squad and obviously losing Harry Kane. But has really kicked on. And obviously for you guys, I hope it carries on.
Yeah, including this weekend, right?
Yeah. After Saturday, yeah.
We are totally going to clip that one, Dave. You've just basically said you want Spurs to continue winning.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Okay. This week, then, we'll start off with the Spurs injury crisis that has suddenly come about us in the space of a week. So the Spurs medical team are now busier than a Friday night A&E. It means that 3 out of the back 4 that have been the mainstay of our season so far will be out tomorrow. Romero serving the first of his 3-game ban. Udogie serving a 1-game ban. And obviously, we've got the long-term injury to Van de Ven and James Maddison, plus Richarlison for a month. HG.
So is that the silver lining that Richarlison's out as well? Is that?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it might well be. But what's your take on the injuries?
Well, we all know that injuries happen. Spurs seem to have been particularly strongly struck. I mean, not just in the last week, but also, losing Perisic, who I don't think has had many injuries his entire career, and he's out for the whole season. We lost Solomon for a few months. So it feels like relatively regularly we've lost players. So I don't think there's any real, kind of pattern to that. But it's unfortunate. I don't quite know why our players seem to be struck down so much. But to lose the injuries, it feels like the injuries are worse, right? Because suspensions can happen whenever. But to lose 2 of our more important players, 2 new signings that have come in and really helped us become the new team we are, to lose them both is not ideal. But I don't think it's as critical as maybe some might want to believe.
John, what's your take on the loss of particularly Maddison and Van de Ven?
Every podcast, every YouTube channel from the off was like, we've got a really good first 11, but if we lose any of those centre-backs, Udogie, Maddison, Son, we're probably in trouble somewhere, aren't we, along the line? And unfortunately, we've also lost Perisic and Solomon. Richarlison hasn't really played well at all, but he's still a body down. So it is worrying. Bentancur coming back is the silver lining. I know I've only joked there with Cess not coming back, but Bentancur coming back. He had a tough game on Monday, but did quite well. Some of the stuff he did was very good. He's a different sort of player to Madders, but we've had such a great start because of Maddison's and Son's link up and the centre backs. So it's going to be a really tough game tomorrow with Wolves. And a lot of people saying, Lo Celso needs to step up. Has he had enough football to step up? Is he going to be? I don't think he'll be the first choice personally, but I'm sure we'll come to that later.
It's interesting. Dave, as a Wolves fan watching, I don't know if you watched the game against Chelsea and saw what happened. Was you rubbing your hands in delight?
Yes and no, because I think we're obviously playing Spurs at the right time in regards to that issue that you've got. But I think Wolves, he's not just this game, but historically have almost sort of taken for granted that Spurs are weak, we should go in and we should get something out of the game. We saw that last weekend against Sheffield United, which I'm sure we'll touch on, where we went into that game knowing, every Premier League away game is tough, but you look at Sheffield United hadn't won a game all season. And I think a lot of Wolves fans went into that thinking, we'll get something out of this game. And obviously, although a few dubious refereeing decisions, we came out with absolutely nothing. So we've got to take Spurs cautiously. Postecoglou probably on Tuesday morning would have had a pretty good idea who would have been available and would have, spent the whole week working on that. So I think defensively, obviously, I'm sure you guys are probably unsure who will start as well, but you've still got a very good midfield and a very good attack with Son and co. So it's going to be it'll be a tough game regardless. But there could be a worse time to play you guys. I think especially with the home advantage, it may give us a chance tomorrow.
Interesting. HG, it's a good point that Dave makes around we've still got a good midfield and a good attacker in paper. What if you was in Ange's shoes? What would be the tactic? Keep the ball, attack.
Well, yeah. We're going to do what we always done. The thing is, people. I said this, I think, on Monday's show, but like lots of Spurs fans believed at the start of the season that we were going to struggle because we didn't sign a centre-back until like 3 days before the season started. And apparently he was going to need time to bed into the way that Ange plays. And I think we've seen that defenders in Ange's system aren't there to do much, really. They're there to mop up. If you've got the ball, they're just standing there making sure that the other team can't get the ball when they throw it over the top. So, yes, it's frustrating, but I don't know. I've kind of lost the question now in my head. But remind me of the question again.
Just how does Ange play it with that defensive crisis?
He's not going to change anything. I mean, we saw it on Monday night. That was extreme because we hadn't done that with 11. So to do it with 9 felt very, very odd. We're not going to do that again. But it is like we know. Every Spurs fan should be aware now. This is what we're going to do. Ange just said it publicly. You may not always agree with it. You may hope for some kind of modification depending on the situation. I don't think any Spurs fan minds about being attacking and wanting the ball and wanting to impose yourself on your opposition. But, 9 versus 11 is an extreme situation. But it's, in theory, like if Dave is right and our midfield is good and our attack is good, then hopefully the defenders will just be there to support rather than actively focus on defending.
Yeah, John, where does that, in terms of the defence, who comes in your view? What's our options there? Do we look to the youth player for HG? What's the name of the youth player? We saw Phillips. Does Phillips come in, or is it?
Yeah, Phillips wasn't in the under-21 squad on Tuesday that went to Cambridge, whereas Dorrington was. So you'd expect Phillips, and obviously we paid money for Phillips, and he's slightly ahead of Dorrington in the under-20. In the England under-19 squad, from what I've seen. So you'd expect Phillips to be head in pecking order. I actually thought, amazingly, Dier and Højbjerg did very, very well on Monday. Even better considering they were playing the high line. Obviously, Dier will be on one side. So it is really a question, is it going to be Phillips? Is it going to be Emerson? I believe Davis is back. I imagine Davis will probably go left back. And then it will be a choice of Emerson, Phillips, which is, I don't know. I mean, I've not seen enough. I mean, Paul Muir is saying in the comments that he hasn't really done much in the under 21s, Phillips. Although, as HG will probably remember, HG watched Van der Ven for the Dutch under 21s in the summer and said he had an absolute stinker. And we were all quite worried at this point.
He didn't look
so
great.
You can't always tell. Yeah. And obviously, I very much trust your opinion as well. So I know you did have.
I'm not sure that's wise, John, but okay.
You can say something, right?
No, it's just it's Phillips. Is he left-footed, or is he right-footed?
No, I don't think so. Paul with this because he's watching under 21s. I know Paul's watching, but
sure.
I never got the impression he was left-footed.
Yeah, Emerson can play there. He's not the fastest either. If you remember the first game of the season, Emerson got absolutely rinsed by the Brentford left wing back, whose name escapes me now.
Henry.
Yeah, Henry actually destroyed him, didn't he?
Yeah.
I actually think there's some merit in. Somebody said that Porro might be out, so Skip might have played right back. There's some merit in us playing midfielders in those fullback roles because they play in midfield, don't they? Which is a bit weird.
Yeah,
you could play Højbjerg there, or you could play Phillips, or you could play Emerson.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, right-footed. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, the apparently Porro is fine. Postecoglou said in the press conference today. So Porro you would suspect, will stay in there, won't he, at right back, which probably frees up Emerson to potentially play in that centre-half position.
I mean, I feel like whatever happens, we will be playing a fullback at centre-back. Something tells me we're not going to have Dier and Phillips be the two. Phillips may well have been kept out because we might need him on the bench, but something tells me that experience might be where we go. Like, Phillips kind of started ahead of Dier at the start of the season, was on the bench, and Dier wasn't. And in the last few games, it's been the other way around. So you sense that maybe the club is not softening on Phillips, but just they're aware that maybe he's not ready. And so it strikes me as being somewhat normal that probably. I mean, it's weird because like when against Palace a few weeks ago, both Davies and Emerson Royal played left back. They played a half each, and in that game, it looked like Royal suited the system better. So it's a weird one because most of us think that Davies will be a left back and Royal should never really be there, and yet in Ange's system, he did all right. So, but yeah, I do think it's going to be Dier. I'm going to say this: Dier +1, Dier plus a fullback. And if you're thinking about pace, who's faster than in between Davies and Emerson? I guess Emerson probably. But it's a situation where really who we pick as fullbacks, it's how they can affect the midfield battle that's actually going to help us more than anything else. If we've got fullbacks that can go into midfield and keep the ball and be good on the ball, then you're making life easier for whoever your centre backs are.
The other random one could be, although he's quite small, so playing centre back wouldn't be brilliant, would be Porro, because he is fast. Yeah. But you'd lose his attacking ability that he's obviously been quite creative for us. And Emerson could play right back. So that's another option that they've got, but it's a less likely one, I admit.
I went to the Palace game and it felt as if our left side was where Palace wanted the ball to go, right? Ben Davies is not great going forward. The ball couldn't really find him anyway. And then we had Richarlison play left wing that night, and we all know he's not a left winger. And so for Palace, it was like, great, get out there because we know it's going to come to nothing. And so with Johnson playing pretty well in the half hour we saw against Chelsea, you would hope that left side can be a bit more dangerous, and maybe whoever's behind him doesn't have to go forward as much as Udogie did. Like that, actually, you can. I mean, I saw a comment about going to a back three. Like, I don't think Ange's going to do that, but the idea of saying, look, if I'm going to have, if Davies doesn't go forward as much as Udogie did, then in theory, at times there is a back three. And that Porro could probably go forward a bit more than we've seen, and Sarr could always cover that side if necessary. So, I don't feel like we're short of options. We may not have our best centre defenders. I mean, that's clear, but it's not. I don't think it's as negative as a lot of people want to think it will be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, HG. I don't think it's going to be too bad at all. Dave, how are Wolves looking going into this game in terms of injuries? Are you clean bill of health?
Not quite. Could argue one of our best performers this year, Neto. He's going to be out for this game. So he picked up an injury in the Newcastle game a couple of weeks ago. So he's definitely out of this match. We're hoping that he'll be back just after the international break, but not 100% sure yet. So that's the main one, really. Other than that, off the top of my head, I think no one else is injured. So we're pretty full strength other than that. But Neto is such a a huge part of how we play. So I mean, that was the team against Sheffield United, and he was definitely a big miss during that game.
Yeah. Do you expect it to be the same side this week tomorrow?
I don't know. I think there'll be a couple of changes. I think the back five will be the same. So Aït-Nouri and Semedo as wing backs, the same back three and goalkeeper. Hwang will definitely play. Cunha will definitely play. I like Sasha Kalajdzic, but he's a 6'7" forward. He's a fantastic finisher, but I just don't think the way Wolves playing, the way we'll play tomorrow, I would expect us to allow Spurs to have a lot of the ball and try and take advantage of your high line and play on the counter attack. Kalajdzic just isn't the player to do that. So I'd expect a French sort of midfielder, attacking midfielder, Jean-Ric Bellegarde to come in. Probably Cunha will play through the middle, Hwang and Bellegarde on the wings. And Tommy Doyle as well. I thought, as his first start for Wolves, and again, a fantastic young player, but I think we need a bit more steel in the midfield. So alongside Lamina, I'd expect young Brazilian midfielder João Gomes or the Malian midfielder Boubacar Traoré, just to add, like I say, a bit more of a presence in the midfield, because I think that could be where the game's won or lost tomorrow.
Interesting. And you've obviously got Hwang Hee-chan, is it? Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Obviously a teammate of Sonny's, international Korean teammate. What do you think of him? Good player?
Yeah, it's a weird one with Hwang, because he, I would say, struggled quite a little bit since he joined Wolves. Had the first season on loan from Leipzig. Actually started quite well, scored a couple of goals in his opening few games, and we were sort of rubbing our hands together thinking, here we go. I mean, for the board, and you guys would have seen it with Son, it's like a marketing dream, really, like the amount of fans from South Korea and the viewership. And I think this is a huge reason why this game's an early kickoff tomorrow, is because they're going to get so many eyes on it from Asia as well. But then he slowed down rapidly and really struggled under Bruno Lage the second half of the season. It got to the point where fans were almost sort of sighing when he was coming on the pitch or losing the ball. Last season, again, really struggled. But this year under Gary O'Neill, he looks a completely different player. Seems to be his attacking awareness and attacking positioning seems a hell of a lot better. And he's formed a really good partnership with Pedro Neto, which we really haven't seen two forwards combine that well for a few years. So it's a huge bonus for Wolves, really. I think he's always been a very clinical finisher in around the box, but for whatever reason, even Nuno's last season under Nuno, Bruno Lage, Lopetegui at times, we just struggled to create opportunities, and now we're creating those chances, Hwang Hee-chan's at the end of them, and firing in. So we just got to hope that Wolves can find a way to play for Hwang to play, even without Pedro Neto on the pitch.
I forgot we both had the joys of Nuno.
He's been sacked now. He's probably waiting to jump back in one of the jobs. Yeah.
But so Dave, do you play 3-4-3 most weeks, or does it change to a 3-5-2 sometimes? Or
so it's been Gary O'Neill started with like sort of like a 4-2-3-1 mainly, and up until sort of when we played Luton about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And then we lost to Ipswich in the Cup, playing the same formation with 2-0 up and ended up losing that game 3-2. And then we played City on the Saturday and everyone was like, oh my word, if we're dropping points to Luton and losing to Ipswich, what are City going to do to us? And Gary O'Neill switched to that back five and we nullified City. It was an unbelievable performance. And we stuck with it ever since. And he's just, disappointing last week, but, we were on a 5-6 match unbeaten run and doing quite well. Sometimes you'll see it switch to like a back four almost, because Ryan Aït-Nouri can push up as a left winger and Totti can slide across to a left back. But never really played as a 5-3-2, more that sort of 3-4-3, 5-2-3 formation.
Interesting. HD, looking at Wolves from a Spurs fan perspective, what do you see as the potential dangers for us tomorrow against Wolves, particularly away from home?
I mean, my potential danger is my best friend here is a Wolves fan and he's coming over to watch the game. So that is what I don't want to see. I don't want to see him dancing in my living room celebrating. But the dangers, the thing is, I feel like with Spurs, we say this every season, but certainly this season, Spurs' biggest danger to them is really themselves. Like, if we play like we know we can play, I believe we can beat anyone. That's not just Wolves. I genuinely think that the way Ange has got us playing, and I don't know what Dave thinks, but I felt most of the season Spurs have been a little bit fortunate. Like we probably weren't the best team in the league, even though we were top of the table. We should have been, fourth or fifth. We'd had a good start, but teams had chances and not taken them, and we'd had chances and taken them, and that's kind of why we were where we were. We haven't been outstanding. The first 30 minutes at Luton, we were really good. Really, really good. Should have been like 3-0 up in 7 minutes or something stupid. But it hasn't clicked that often this season. So I just think that with Spurs, if we can actually get going, if we can get the midfield working, if we can create the chances, I do think we'll score them. And Johnson, in the half hour we saw last against Chelsea, looked a massive improvement to Richarlison. So I do, it's not as if I don't worry about Wolves, because I do, because obviously they're the ones that are going to be scoring the goals. But my main concern is that Spurs play well, because I think if we do that, we will win the game. We didn't play well at Palace, really, but one shot on target, scored 2 goals. To me, that was not a great performance. But so if Spurs can do that and we get a couple, then we probably will come away with 3 points. But Wolves can definitely hurt us. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, John, what do you make to Wolves so far this season? Impressed with them, or don't see them as anything to worry about?
I haven't seen much. I'll tell you what I was very, very impressed with was Gary O'Neill on Monday Night Football. The way he spoke about the tactics that he built against Bournemouth. I know it's his old team, so he's got a bit more insight. But his reputation just from that appearance on Monday Night Football has gone up so much, because he was just the way he spoke, the way he explained how he did the training that week, the tactics, the way he built it up for the players was so clever. And really, I get the feeling he tweaks it for each game. There's certain managers, like we know Ange won't tweak it. We know Conte definitely didn't tweak it. He just played the same turgid rubbish all the time. But there's certain managers that will do little tweaks. Gary O'Neill looks at the opposition and adapts his team to suit, especially if he assumes that they're going to be a better team than him I'm guessing a lot of the time. Obviously, they beat City. So he's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. Wolves obviously have lost their main man Neto. We've lost about 3 main men, and 4 main men, fortunately. It's a tough place to go, Wolves. We lost there last season, again, because we played turgid rubbish. And Traore managed to bounce the ball into the top corner flukily. But Traore loves a goal against Spurs, doesn't he? Where is he now? Where's he gone? Is he Fulham or somewhere?
Yeah, he's barely getting a kick there. Yeah, him and Jimenez back together. Yeah.
They're saving him for when
Quang
they play
is in
Spurs,
a
pretty
rich
much.
train of form. Sorry, actually.
No, so Fulham just saved Traore for when they play Spurs, pretty much. But
Quang's in a rich vein of form. Him and Sonny are sort of going go for goal, aren't they? And if you lose Quang and we lose Son, I think both teams are going to struggle to score goals. You're right, actually. It's going to be the midfield battle. Last season, we lost it because we played 2 men in the midfield, as we kept doing, because we played 3-4-3. And we just got out-muscled. Whereas our different system this season will help. Obviously, Maddison won't be there. So whoever's going to come in is likely to be probably Bentancur, I'm guessing, or Højbjerg. They will play more as a midfielder than an attacking midfielder. So it will be quite interesting to see how it goes. Dave, do you think that Wolves might sit back a bit to restrict the space for Spurs?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of momentum swings throughout the game, to be fair. And I think we've seen that in many games for Wolves this season. I think under Gary O'Neill, the early sort of home games, you could sort of see there were sort of a few teething issues with him, taking the job. We had Brighton, which, it was actually a pretty close game. And we just had 5 minutes of stupidity where they scored 3 goals and ended up winning the game 4-1. Same against Liverpool. Boston, first half, 1-0 up. Missed a sitter right at the end of the half to go 2-0 up, and they ended up winning that game quite comfortably in the second half. But in recent games, since switching to the 5, City especially, the stats, I think Wolves scored twice and only had 1 shot on target because 1 goal was actually an own goal. But in terms of the actual allowing City to create clear-cut opportunities, they created very, very little. And we did sit back and frustrated them. And that was the key. Sit back, frustrate them. And it was normally Neto or Hwang start the counter-attack. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think we will sit back. I think we will allow Spurs quite a little bit of the ball, especially in the early stages, and try and, rely on those counter-attacks. But like I said, especially with us being at home, I would expect us to have certain spells of possession throughout the first half, especially. But it just really depends on how early the first goal is. If Wolves can frustrate Spurs as long as possible, and obviously Postecoglou and that back line just keeps creeping up and up and up, and that'll be perfect for Wolves, and obviously see how quick we can launch a counter-attack.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we expect Wolves to sit back a little bit deeper. They're going to revert into a low block to a certain extent with that sort of back 5. Mm-hmm. HG, it means that we're going to have to break down another low block, something that we have struggled with in games this season, haven't we, when we've been against a low block. No Maddison in terms of creativity. Who and how do we fill that void with Maddison? Who comes in for you?
I mean, I think it depends what you want them to do. If you want them to do the same thing that Maddison did, then I suspect that the comment that Paul made up here is probably right. I think Kulusevski is the closest thing. He's played, I think, almost every league game, if not every league game this season. He likes to cut in. He likes to be part of the action. It's weird. He would be on the wrong side, which would matter, I think, a little bit. But when it comes to player characteristics, Kulu might be the right person, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kulu will play right wing. And so then you're looking at, well, again, what do you need to beat a low block? Spurs may not have those intricate passes and through balls now that Maddison's not there. So you need to find another way of doing it. And so it might just be that we pick 1 or maybe 2 new midfielders to be the 8s who are better at shooting from long distance. Because I don't think Pap Sarr's really got that in his locker. No. So you're looking at maybe Højbjerg, who scored from distance for Spurs before. We've got Bentancur, who we know has a nose for a goal, and we know those two play well with each other as well. So, again, I don't think Ange will do that, but if you were looking to kind of break the low block, we know Johnson on one side is quite happy to go down the line. We've got other options like Brian Hill, but he's not played for Ange, I don't think. Maybe a couple of minutes at Palace, but nothing else. So it does feel like we won't change that much about how we set up. It will be a person coming in to do what Maddison can do, but I don't think Kulusevski will move across to do that role. I think it will be probably Bentancur, like John said earlier.
John, why is no one talking about God, I'm having a mare.
Oliver Skip.
No, not Oliver Skip. God, no. Lo Celso. Why is no one talking about Lo Celso?
Because we've hardly
He was
seen him.
brilliant in pre-season.
You'd have thought Ange would have brought him on more. He'd have had more game time. So I'm not sure Ange is convinced by him. He's obviously a talented player. He plays really well for Argentina. Messi loves him. The Premier League is a different animal. And you just wonder, he always seems to get injured as well. Is it a mentality thing? Is it fitness thing? I don't really know. Craig, you with this or have you frozen?
Oh, you
I think
might
it's
have
frozen,
frozen.
isn't he?
I think the thing is, like, I think Bentancur might have played more minutes this season than Lo Celso, which is quite scary to think about, considering that, like, I know Lo Celso was injured for a few months, but Lo Celso was fit, then Bentancur became fit, and Bentancur has played more minutes. So to me, it seems pretty logical that he's ahead of Lo Celso in whatever and just thinking midfield wise. So yeah, as much as Lo Celso played that Maddison role in pre-season and was pretty good, I somehow don't think it will be him. I wouldn't mind seeing it because, like a lot of Spurs fans, I think there's probably something there, but we've got to base it on what Ange has done, and Ange has consistently picked Bentancur over Lo Celso consistently in the last 2 games that Bentancur has been back, but still he's getting on the pitch and Lo Celso isn't.
Yeah. Okay. Dave, who out of the Spurs walking wounded, who actually worries you about Spurs team at the moment?
I think the sort of the main one who's going to play tomorrow is probably going to be Son. I think he's really stepped up. I thought, I've always thought Son was a very good player, top player, really. I think he's been able to come into the limelight a little bit more. I think people appreciated him, but with Harry Kane was always the poster boy of Tottenham. So with him gone, I think there's almost a fair share now. There's a lot of players at Tottenham getting the praise they sort of deserve. So Son's the main one to watch tomorrow. I think Maddison would have been obviously a huge part of the team for tomorrow as well. So I think Wolves are quite fortunate that he's out injured. But I think everything's going to go through Son, and I think he's got to be the player that Wolves need to watch and hopefully do a job on. I mean, Craig Dawson played Erling Haaland out of the game when City came to Molineux a few weeks ago. That was one of the major reasons we won that game. It'll be interesting to see if he can do the same with Son. I'd assume Son may drop a little bit deeper or drift out wide at times to pick up the ball, whereas Haaland was very static. He stayed very central. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that. But yeah, he's the main man to watch tomorrow, I think.
I think Son will only drift out wide if we're getting frustrated by a low block. Otherwise, he stays in the pockets and he looks for that ball through to try and run onto it, or the crosses, pullbacks. That's very much the role of the Ange striker, as far as I can see it. I mean, HG, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've seen it. The first 3 games of the season, Richarlison was the 9. Spurs were okay, nothing special. We beat Man United okay. But when Son came in at the Burnley game, he got a hat-trick and suddenly we're like, okay, we're off and running. And I feel like that's what Spurs have been doing a number of times in various positions where you're playing someone and you're hoping that maybe it's going to work, but it hasn't. And Richarlison on the left-hand side didn't really work. Perisic would come on almost every game and look a much better option in that area. So Spurs are slowly working their way towards what is probably going to be their best 11. But for Spurs to look dangerous, it's going to come probably through Johnson. The pace that he has, even though Son has it, I mean, we've seen it. Like, Son is dropping deep. Son is looking to kind of connect things. And the ball is spread wide relatively early to Johnson, who then runs people. And the goal the Son's second goal against Chelsea that was disallowed was a pretty good example. If you get the ball to Johnson, he doesn't have many tricks, but he has the pace and he's got good passing in those areas. So it does feel as if Brennan Johnson, especially away from home, will be a major part of what, if Spurs are to win, a lot of it might go through him, because we might just be a bit too static on the other side. Porro doesn't get as far forward as maybe you want him to, because he's got the best delivery on the right hand side. But I say this a lot, but I feel like it's about partnerships. Like, we know Højbjerg and Bentancur work well together, right? We don't have to worry about that. We assume that Bissouma and Bentancur will work well together because they're both intelligent footballers who are really good on the ball. But it's finding the links up front. We haven't really found that this season. Maddison has done well away from home and scored a few goals. But Richarlison has been popping up with assists, but a lot of those assists were just kick it to Son and watch Son put it in the corner. So we haven't really had too many chances or too many good goals. The second goal at Palace was a prime example. The run from Johnson is what made that goal. Otherwise, Maddison's up against a couple of defenders and Son's in the box. But the fact that Johnson made the run beyond opened everything up. So, Brennan Johnson is kind of going to be key. And even he is playing out of position right now. We are very much a bit of a patchwork team.
Yeah. Daniel's asking Alfie Devine to be recalled. I don't believe you can recall the player until January anyway. And we may not be able to call him for the season, but the likelihood is it's January. Devine called up to, what was the squad that Seb told us he's been called up to?
Some kind of elite, like England elite.
An elite squad with Dane Scarlett.
No idea.
A bit random that. But he's doing really well. Scored the winner in the cup for them for Port Vale the other day. So, but apparently there's another player outshining him from Sheffield United. With a very northern name? Can you remember what it was? HG?
Arblaster.
Arblaster. Yeah.
To be fair, when he wrote Arblaster Vale, I thought that was his name until I realised. But when he said Vale, he meant Port Vale. Like, oh wait, Arblaster is actually the kid's surname. Okay, but
apparently one to watch.
No, Alfie Devine, if he gets recalled in January, it's to go somewhere else at a higher level. I don't think. We've got so many midfield options. I mean, again, Skip and Lo Celso have barely had a look in. Højbjerg has been sub at best all season, pretty much. Bentancur, I suspect, is ahead of Højbjerg when it comes to pecking order. Alfie Devine, not this season. If he does well, maybe in pre-season, then he could become part of the squad next year. But I don't see us recalling him unless we are really, really screwed with numbers and the injuries keep on coming.
I mean, in pre-season, he played more in the sort of Kulu role, wasn't he? He came off the bench.
Because we didn't really have a second option to do that. I mean, that's the thing. That our pre-season, Dave, and I know you wouldn't have watched it, but our pre-season was basically two teams of 45 minutes. Yeah. Like that's what we did the whole year. And so you kind of saw, Maddison plays the first half and this also plays his role. Yeah. And Bissouma plays the first half and Højbjerg would come on and play that role. And so there wasn't really a right winger at the club because we hadn't signed Johnson yet. And so when Kulusevski went off, we were kind of who's left. I think did Jed Spence play some minutes in that role pre-season? I think he might have done.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
But
wasn't it the Barcelona game that Devine and Spence came on and we were winning and then they came on and we lost the game?
Yeah, it's pre-season. It's pre-season, but it's Spurs. It is weird to know that we're second, and we've had some really good results. But I don't think we've actually played anywhere near the most Ange-like team we could. Because even when Brennan Johnson was signed late in the window, he had half a game or a little bit more than half a game at Arsenal, got injured, didn't come back until coming on at Palace. And that's the type of player that suits Ange ball. Whether it's a low block who we're playing against or anything else, they need to have pace down the wings. And Kulusevski is lots of things, but he's not super fast and he doesn't want to use that. That's not his game. So we've said this for a while when we've had players get injured, but it does feel like Spurs, in theory, should get better rather than struggle to stay where they are.
For those of you who are missing Mr. Steve Diver, just to let you know, he is currently watching us from, I believe, San Francisco, which he got to via New York, via Budapest. Which I said as a joke he was going to go to Budapest, and he actually did.
Yeah.
And he was in Chicago before that. So he flew from Chicago to Budapest to New York and now back to San Francisco, because obviously that's what you do.
Because Chicago to San Francisco is it's boring. It's only 3 hours. You've got to have a couple of overnight flights for that to happen. But Steve is the carbon warrior. I know he negates those things, but he'll be happy to tell you that. But it's good to see Stevie in the chat, and he's awake and probably not drinking champagne yet. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, indeed. So some pictures came out of the Spurs squad today in the kit. There we go. Craig is currently trying to get his internet fixed because apparently he's gone down, unfortunately. I think Caller's logged in to say, please smash a like button now. So according to my screen, we've got 41 likes and we've got 112 of you watching. So that's a pretty poor ratio. Please do click the like button for us. It really helps the channel. We're over 8,000 subs now. But if you haven't subscribed, please click on. We want to get to 10K by the end of the season, which would be fantastic. Simply Ace is saying defence is worrying. We've just got to play Aussie style and score more than them. It's the simple answer, isn't it, Ace? Let's go back to the 90s.
When you said Aussie, I went Postecoglou rather than
of course,
Ardiles. Yeah,
Double
so
meaning.
it fits. Basically, it fits. Aussie. We're going to do Aussie, whatever that means. But yeah,
Aussie.
Yeah, I'm never confident that Spurs, even with Romero and Van der Ven, I wasn't confident they'd get a clean sheet. I think that was Lamella in both those pictures, wasn't it? Pretty certain it was.
Caller's having a night off, but he's not having a night off. He's there. Doesn't Caller have a Wolves connection? Yes, his dad is a Wolves season ticket holder, and apparently his dad's let him down with a ticket, so he's not going to make it. If any Spurs fans do have a ticket, Seb is desperate for a ticket for tomorrow for the weigh-in as well.
Seb has got one.
Oh, has he got one?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Seb will have some insight on Monday, hopefully, for us. Here we go. Caller is at Centre Parks. There you go. The kids are in bed, so he's just sat there watching, joining in. Right. I thought watching awful indeed. Anyway, let's get back to the game. So, Dave, here's your last 6 games. Bit of a mixed bag, really. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Obviously, one of them was in the cup to Ipswich, to the mighty Dane Scarlet's team. Beat Man City, lost to Sheffield United. Talk to us.
Yeah, that's just pretty much typical Wolves, to be fair. But I mean, yeah, you look. The main thing there, I think, ahead of this game is you look at the last 3 home games, which is draws against Newcastle and Villa, and obviously the win against City. All 3 teams in European competition, so all 3 good teams, top end of towards the top end of the table. All 3 could have possibly gone either way. I think the Newcastle game we were unfortunate, or both Sheffield United and Newcastle game had some horrendous officiating go against us, and obviously it just adds more fuel to the fire that's about the officiating and VAR. But I felt we gave Newcastle a really good game and probably should have and could have gone on to get all 3 points. I think if Neto stayed fit throughout the 90, we would have. Bournemouth away from home, it was a slow start. We got ourselves back in the game right after half time, and then they went down to 10 men, so it was just a matter of when we were going to score. And the Villa game, I thought went toe to toe with Villa, gave them a good game. A draw was probably the fair result. And like I said earlier, the City game, obviously, I don't think you're ever going to go 90 minutes and dominating City, but we did exactly what we needed to do to get 3 points. And for a team playing Manchester City, I think it was almost a perfect performance for Gary O'Neill. So ever since that Ipswich game, and ever since we switched to a back 5, I think it was a bit of a wake-up call. And sort of ignoring last weekend's result, Wolves have been doing okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the run results. Go on, actually.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if it finished level. I really wouldn't, and I would feel that way even if Spurs had the players that we're going to be missing, because Wolves are decent at home, and I mean those teams like Newcastle and Villa have had some seriously good results this season. And so to get points against them, even if you're at home, like they're good results for Wolves. So they even though Spurs aren't the European team this season that we have been in previous years, it's still a massive game. And I feel like looking at that, you could get the impression that Wolves play better against the better teams. So like a 0-0 or a 1-1 seems, if I were a betting man, which I'm not because I would lose all my money very quickly. Then maybe that would be where I would go, because Spurs are without players, Wolves without players. Will they cancel each other out? It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the colours there, the red, the orange, and the green, I'm going to say it's going to be a win or a draw for Wolves. Looking at the to keep the symmetry going, but also you've played some tough games at home, which does mean on the flip side, after Christmas you're going to have some tough away games.
Yeah.
But you've done well in those home games, so
it's going to be a really
ever
since switching to that back 5 really kicked on. But yeah, like you said, we've already played Brighton, Liverpool, City, Newcastle, Villa at home. I'm probably forgetting 1 or 2, but we've played all out. I think I remember when the fixture list came out and people were going, we genuinely might not win a home game until like mid to end of November here, because that's how tough our running was. But once we get you guys out of the way, we've got quite a nice running. We've got Fulham. We've got a few teams coming up which are sort of in and around sort of where we should be in the table. So fingers crossed we can get some more points. But we've got a tricky December schedule. As you would have seen, we're playing on Christmas Eve as well. So we just got to try and get as many points as we can before then.
So, question from Caller. Caller's dad, obviously, as I said, is a Wolves season ticket holder. He's hoping for a gift from us tomorrow. He's got a question. Have all the VAR decisions gone against Wolves this season?
There may have been some that have gone for us, but you very rarely remember the ones that have gone in your favour. But we have been let down quite massively. I think you look at the first game of the season against Manchester United. We were really surprised with how well Wolves played. Went 1-0 down, and then Andre Onana clatters into Kalajdzic and Dawson. It should have been a Stonewall penalty. It wasn't given. Howard Webb literally apologises to Gary O'Neill straight after the game. We had a couple against Luton. It was quite a harsh red card, in my opinion. And then they got given a penalty where João Gomez blocks the shot with his foot and it bounces up onto his arm, and they give a penalty for that. And obviously, we ended up drawing that game 1-1. And then the last 2 weeks consecutively, there've been penalty shouts. And it was almost like deja vu on Saturday when that got given again. The Newcastle one, where Hwang sort of kicked the ground and Fabian Schär's jumped over him and Anthony Taylor's given a penalty. And then last weekend where Fabio Silva's done a very similar thing and Bulldog goes down and wins Sheffield United a penalty in the 99th minute, I think, to win the game. So I don't completely blame the referees, because I think when you're in the sort of spur of the moment, I can understand why they give those. But when you've got a system such as VAR and two other guys that can watch it in slow motion and then different angles, the fact that they're still standing by that decision is obviously frustrating. And the Premier League's independent panel for the last 2 weeks have said both times the referees got it wrong. And it's all well and good them keep apologising, but at the end of the day, Wolves are losing points and obviously sliding down the table.
I think a lot of teams are getting apologies from the officials at the moment, and that's the worries that so much is they're getting it wrong even with VAR. So before we go predictions, these are the last 6 games at Molineux between Spurs. The second one down obviously was the League Cup game when we saw a very good performance by a certain Brian Hill, HG. Any chance we might see a bit of
brilliant penalty? I remember his penalty.
He was really good. He clattered Traore 2 or 3 times, like sliding tackles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look, I think
I remember doing a watch along with Shan.
Yeah, there you go. Look, we might see him if we're behind. It would be interesting if we see him if we're ahead, and maybe we will, because we've got, with very little options in attack to come off the bench. I mean, that's the thing. We've lost Perisic, we've lost Solomon, we've lost Richarlison. I guess Veliz will be on the bench, but I feel like Brian Hill deserves to get some minutes at some point, because like we've said this repeatedly, he fits Ange's wingers very well, and we've not really seen him. I think he gave him a couple of minutes at Palace, he got, but no chance to really run at players and see what he can do. So there might be an opportunity tomorrow, but it will depend on the situation in the game. And it feels like Ange is like, if I've got nothing else, then you can play, which is exactly how Antonio Conte treated him. So it's a weird one. I mean, but with the show that BT did, or TNT or whatever it's called now, they did the Rio Ferdinand thing yesterday, and Ange talked about how like he wants players with a certain character. You start to think that these players that aren't playing for him, that are still here, maybe that's the problem. And it's not a football skill issue; it's a character issue. Like, why does Brian Hill really want to be at Spurs? And I mean, maybe the answer is no. So, I mean, I want to see him play. I want to see him turn things around at Spurs, but I'm not sure if tomorrow it will happen.
It does make you wonder if that is the view of him, that he doesn't really want to be there when we've got what appears to be a lot of young, talented youngsters coming through. And Jamie Donley got the Premier League 2 Player of the Month this month, and I keep banging the Jamie Donley drum because he's a talented player. And I'd love to see him get a chance. It was mentioned in the comments earlier. But anyway, back to this. Dave, we've had this weird run of fixtures against Wolves where you keep winning at Tottenham and we keep winning at yours. I think you've only beaten us last season. And I think we've only beaten you once. Was it once? Yeah, the 2-0 win we beat you, didn't we, a couple of years ago? Nuno's last game for you, as it were, not last season.
Mm.
Is this because of we've had a couple managers that have been quite negative?
Possibly. I think I saw a stat yesterday where 50% of the games between Wolves and Spurs in the Premier League have been won by the away side. And I think only Leicester versus City is the only other fixture with a higher percentage of that. So, yeah, I mean, the Wolves in terms of consecutive wins against Spurs, you're talking years and years and years ago. So it'll be a huge result if Wolves do manage to win this game. But I don't know what it is. Like I said, Wolves have now got some good home form. I think Spurs. I mean, what was the date? Sorry, of that one where we beat you last season? Yeah, that was when Lopetegui had come in, and Lopetegui away from home was awful. But I think the reason we stayed in the Premier League was he managed to get Molineux, the atmosphere a little bit better, and almost made it a little bit of a fortress. And Gary O'Neill's carried that on. So I am hoping that we do well, and two of those wins there were both under Nuno as well, as in your wins against us. He beat us twice at Molineux, I believe. So hopefully the sort of pattern can change tomorrow. But it's interesting to see that the away team seems to always get the better in this fixture.
Yeah, hopefully that will continue tomorrow. So shall we have a little thought about predictions then? Here we go. It is a 12:30 kickoff UK time. There's been a bit of chat about Davo's delighted it's a midnight fixture for him. I know he's not. Is he gone back yet, or is he still over here?
I think he might still be in the UK. Yeah, but I don't know when. I think
he's watching it before he goes, isn't he?
Okay.
I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare for me because I've got to take my 4-year-old to a birthday party at midday. So I'm going to be on the old.
Just drop her there. Just drop her there and then leave the pub for a couple of hours. You'll be all right.
I'll be on the app. So obviously, I'll be watching my 4-year-old at all times.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. HG, what do you think the results can? You've already given us a little insight, but go for your confirmed prediction.
Like I'm always negative with Spurs because I've been a Spurs fan for so long. You kind of have to be. Based on the situation, I think a 1-1 is probably likely. That's where I would put money. But as I said earlier, if Spurs play well, we'll win. I do believe that. But I think that Wolves are a pretty good side, Spurs are a pretty good side, and so 1-1.
Dave.
Yeah, I think my head is saying a 1-1. I think both teams will score regardless. I think if a team does go on to win the game, I think it'll only be a goal either side. So I think it would be either 2-1 Spurs or 2-1 Wolves. But my head is saying a 1-1 draw. And I think a lot of Wolves fans would take that at this point. I know Spurs got the suspension and injury issues, but like I said at the start of the show, Postecoglou will be aware of that. He would have known on Tuesday morning, or had a pretty good idea who will and won't be available. And he's a fantastic coach and would have got his team ready from there, really. So it's not going to be an easy game for Wolves, but hopefully that home advantage gives us a little bit more. But I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Okay. Simply Ace is going 3-1 to Wolves because of the injuries. Gerard's going 1-1. Sorry, it's Brett 3-1 to Spurs. Adrian's giving us a 3-2. This could be a good one. A hard-fought 2-1 win. King Hoddle is saying for Spurs. MS 2-1 Spurs. Obviously, these tend to be very Spurs based, don't they? Obviously,
no,
that's most of us Spurs fans. Michael's going 2-1. Dier to score from a corner and Sonny the winner. What, direct from the corner?
Does that mean Dier? Does that mean Dier is taking the corner and he's going to score?
Do you know what he could? He's got quite a nice arc on his crosses. He could.
If that happens, we're winning the league. I'm sorry. Like if Dier scores from a corner at any point this season, Spurs will win the league.
Daniel is saying 2-1 Spurs. We'll only allow you to win if you win 11-0 to get above Chelsea. Well, to be fair, they're playing City, so they might, although knowing how luck Chelsea
don't even mention that name. Just always Chelsea.
I've got a feeling it might be a bit of a Desmond, a bit of a tutu.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really hard one to call until we see the team as well. It's hard to call.
So we're both Spurs fans are confident. Like we've won 8 out of 11 games, but a draw. It's going to be a draw.
We were there in the 90s. We saw enough of it to be,
The formative years were terrible.
So Wolves are in this little league here, aren't they, Dave? They're in this little mini league here. You're only 4 points off Brentford.
Yeah,
we're having a half decent season. So,
and like I said, points have been sort of frustratingly taken away from us with the decisions. So it could be so different. I mean, we're still on okay form if ignoring that result last weekend. And it's still pretty tight, a couple of games and that could completely change again. So we've got enough of a cushion away from that bottom three at the moment. I think, Luton are still doing okay for themselves, but I think probably Sheffield United, Burnley and Luton are going to be the three, I would assume, that are going to struggle. But yeah, we've got to just carry on picking up points. And if we can do that in home games, I think we'll be okay. Can get to over that 20-point mark by the halfway point of the season, I'll be more than happy, which I think we should be able to do anyway.
Yeah. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Paul has just asked if Madder's out, who's going to take the corners? I'm assuming Porro, HG.
It maybe depends on the side. I think, if it's an in-swinger, then Porro will take it. But, on the other side, maybe Kulusevski will. I don't know. But it's like we watched Ericsson be terrible at them for years. And so, to me, it's not a difficult skill to get it in and around the area you want it to be. May not be at pace, but still, if you're just going to lift it into the area and let people attack it, why not do that? So I guess I'm not that fast. But yeah, Porro took some pretty good free kicks against Chelsea on Monday night where we could have had, Sunj probably should have scored. Was it the Bentancur chance was from that? So... Yeah, Porro's obviously got good delivery, so maybe he'll do it. But Kulusevski on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've already covered this. Sorry. I think probably Davis is going to play, but it could be Emerson. Could be one or the other, depending on which way Ange goes. That's the trouble. You can't really second guess Ange, can you? He'll do what he wants to do.
No, I mean, if I were to guess, it's going to be probably Davis because I think Royer will play centre back. But that's the reasoning. I think Ange will go for a experienced back four, the most experience he can. And Phillips has had 8 games at Championship level. It's as good as we might think he can be. Is he better right now than what Royal could do there? I don't know, but I think that's the key question.
No, he is fit. It was announced today in the press conference, and so is Porro apparently. So that is that answered. Shall we move on to Premier League predictions? Well, I think we all know which way the first one's going, HG.
Have some faith. No, you're right.
What, the Burnley won't just open up and try and play football and get destroyed?
No. Oh, yeah. It's a cricket score, that one, isn't it? Yeah, I think if Arsenal don't win by at least 4, it's a bad day at the office for them, sadly. But yeah, Arsenal will win that.
Yeah. Dave?
Yeah, I think it's comfortable. Arsenal win. I think they'd be very, very disappointed if they don't get anything out of that game.
Is Nketiah going to get another hat-trick and then Arsenal fans go on about how good he is, having scored no goals for ages and then scoring 2 hat-tricks? Oh, there you go. Nketiah the best striker again tomorrow. Davo thinks 25-0. Adrian 4-0. Sorry, Brett says it's 2-0 Burnley. Oh, that would
get
be
good
amazing,
odds on that, Brett.
Yeah, you would get good odds on that. I mean, last week I did a quick. I had a look because we were joking about Luton, Liverpool, and the Man City game, both being 9-0, and I had a look, and I could have got combined odds of 25,000 to 1, but obviously City only managed 6, and Liverpool drew. Yeah. So there you go. Palace, Everton. Oh, this has got a bit of a low. Can't imagine there's going to be loads of goals in this, actually.
I mean, Palace weren't great when I was there. They really weren't. I mean, the home fans are a benefit to Palace, but Everton are in a bit of form, haven't they? They've won a few games recently. They're starting to go up the table. It does appear. I think Palace is. I mean, Olise's still out. I think Eze's still out. Yeah, maybe Everton to sneak it 2-1.
Oh, he's gone for it, Dave.
I think again, this is probably going to be a 1-1 draw. This has got all the hallmarks of being last on match of the day. I think this game has to be fair, so I'll probably go over 1-1 draw.
Before I give mine, I just want to give a bit of kudos to Steve Parish. He's forgetting Eze to sign a new contract because he got Elise to sign one as well. And given that he only had 18 months left, that is amazing work because surely all the big clubs were sniffing around Eze. We've been linked with him several times. So you got to say well done to Steve Parish for that, for keeping him at Selhurst Park. I'm going to go.
Do we have to say well done for this? Like, I don't think either one of them are ever going to show up at Spurs. But I suppose he's guaranteed.
I think both of them can go up a level, though.
He's definitely guaranteed a good fee, and they both count as homegrown, which will mean that fee will be massive. I mean, that's whenever they do go. And apparently City were after Eze last year, but there's a very good chance that for everyone involved, it was a win. Palace get a bit more security, Eze gets a nice big pay rise, but actually when he chooses to leave, I'm not sure. I don't think it really matters. He can still leave in the summer. It's more just in case something happens, because he was out for 8-9 months with an Achilles. I think if that was to happen again, then it does protect Palace, even if it's costing them a lot of money to have that protection. But it's good. Like I'm a firm believer. I do like the league being strong. I don't like let's say mid-table teams losing their best players every season to the bigger ones. I don't really want to see that as much. Like it's weird, but if Spurs are ever going to do what I dream of doing, then to me the league needs to be stronger and everyone takes points off each other. I don't think Spurs are ever going to be that 100-point, behemoth that we've seen the last 5 or 6 years. So, in that case, it's good. But as long as they don't go to Arsenal, I guess I'm happy.
Okay. I'm going to go 2-1 Palace on this one. And I think Jordan Ayew will score, but not with his hand this time. The only one thing I would say, it was a hell of a strike he scored. I know it came with his hand first, but it was a hell of a strike to beat Vicario from there. Man United Luton. Ooh. Did you just get this vibe? This could be Ten Hag's last stand and Luton get a 1-0 win from a corner or something.
No. As much as I would like that. I mean, the thing is, I think Ten Hag is safe until whatever happens Champions League wise. I know losing at home to Luton would be weird, would be very weird and very funny. But I suspect that if they finish fourth in their Champions League group, he'll be gone more than whatever happens against Luton. But it would be nice to see if Luton, because I think they lost Ogbene towards the end of the Liverpool game. He went off, and so if he's there, I mean Luton have players that can hurt anyone. But no, United at home, you'd have to think they've got enough to do enough. They won't be good, but they'll do enough, just like they were at Fulham last week. They weren't good, but they came away with a win.
I think Davo thinks Brian Steen's coming back with Mick Harford to play up front for Luton.
Ashley Grimes.
Yeah, Ashley Grimes, yeah. Luton are going well, but 1-0 to United. A lot of Luton love tonight, though, or maybe it's just everyone hoping.
We are all hoping, surely.
4-0 United, unfortunately. But... I mean, obviously, Rashford had a nice rest last night, didn't he? So he'll be raring to go. Luton growing a bit, but I mean, if this was at Luton, I would definitely fancy Luton. But at Old Trafford, I think you're going to have to fancy United probably over. I'm going to go 2-1 to United. Dave?
Yeah, I think United should. Yeah, they should have enough. I think it'd be a 2-0 United. But if Luton get anything, huge pressure on Ten Hag, massive pressure on him then. But yeah, they should have enough to beat him. But like you said, I think if it was at Kenilworth, I think Luton frustrated the life out of Liverpool last week, so you never know.
Yeah. So Bournemouth, Newcastle. I know Newcastle got a lot of injuries, but you still got to fancy them going to Bournemouth. I'm going to go 3-0 Newcastle. HG. Yeah,
Newcastle seem to have a decent defense, and they always find goals. I mean that's just it. They are one of those teams that, like Villa, they are very good at everything, but not excellent at anything yet. But when I think when the players come, they will do. So you'd have to look at that and think Newcastle. I mean, when I see it, I think, the Newcastle fans will only have to leave at 7 in the morning instead of 3 in the morning. So. You get a nice weekend in Bournemouth is there still a storm in the UK right now? Is that past? But
I've still got a bit of flooding here, but we've had some rain today, but the actual storm's gone.
Okay. So Newcastle will do enough. And I don't think Bournemouth are as bad as their results have said, but I don't look at that team and think, oh, that's their best player, that's their star player. They are trying to cobble together results with a team, and the manager seems to be trying to figure out who the best team is still. But I don't think he's a bad manager, and I don't think they're a bad side. But I still think we'll probably have enough.
Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, I think Newcastle should have enough to win that game. I think it would be a narrow win, but I'd go Newcastle 1-0, I think. But yeah, Bournemouth play some all right stuff. I think that Iraola wants them to play better football. I think he's a little bit restricted with the squad that he's got. I think he's one of those managers, if he can keep them up this season, and if they give him the time, he may really kick on from next year onwards. But I think at the moment, Newcastle just have too much for them.
Well oiled. Yeah, very good. Bournemouth 2-0. Oh, Davo's going for a Solanke hat-trick. Goodness me. How is it all to Bournemouth? Well, although Bournemouth owe Howe quite a lot as well.
I saw a stat today that kind of showed every team's fastest player of the season so far. And initially I thought it was done like team-wise, so I looked for Spurs towards the end of the list. But it wasn't. It was done player-wise. Like the fastest player on the team was first in the list, whoever it was. So for Spurs, it was Van der Ven, which made sense. But Solanke was faster than Van der Ven, which I found insane. Yeah, and there were a number of names on that list where I'm like, I think Ben Chilwell was faster than Van der Ven, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't believe I've ever seen that. But Solanke was on there as being Bournemouth's fastest player, whatever that means.
I guess it depends on the distance, doesn't it? Because some players are, they used to say Mickey Quinn was lightning over 3 yards, didn't they, to score a goal? Obviously, Van der Ven takes a bit of time to get going, doesn't he? And when once he's going, he's like,
but,
so maybe it's that.
Maybe.
Well, will Harry pop over from his Sandbanks mansion? You guarantee Harry Redknapp, if he's not working for TNT, will be in that director's box.
Yeah, for sure.
With Rosie. No, probably not Rosie. Right. Sunday. This is my birthday, Sunday.
Is it really?
Aston. Yeah, my birthday.
Sorry, I don't know why I always forget, but sorry, John. Yeah, this week, good.
That's right.
Happy birthday.
Oh, because my birthday last year, we beat Leeds 4-3. The last game before the World Cup.
Okay, there you go.
And here's the challenge for you in the chat. Guess my age. There you go. It's always an entertaining one. The clue is I'm older than Caller, believe it or not.
Yeah. He's taller than you think.
Aston Villa v Fulham.
I think Villa.
Davo's going 50.
Yeah.
Davo's either going 5-0 or thinks I'm 50. I'm not sure which one. What, the one that said F off? Yeah, thanks, Dave. 2-0 routine Villa. 3-1.
Yeah, I think Fulham need a striker called Richarlison in January. That could help them out.
Be interesting.
Dave, I'm going to go on, Dave.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to go 3-0 to Villa.
Yeah, I think Villa have coped pretty well with like the European sort of hangover. They're not really having one, so I mean they're just sort of. It's similar to when Wolves were in Europe. We sort of just carried on that momentum after a game in Europe. We just carry on that form into the Sunday. But yeah, I'd back them to beat Fulham. I'll probably go with a 2-0 win, especially at home as well.
HG?
For Villa, Villa will win. And I think Brighton will win as well to go to the next one. In fact, there's a lot of home wins there, really, isn't there? Like Liverpool will probably win. But Villa will win. Do you actually want to score?
Yeah, go on. Just for kids.
5-2.
Okay. Whoa, okay. Davo, you are incorrect. And you've known me for longer than anyone in the chat. So that's disappointing. MS, no. Sorry, Brett. No. I'm definitely not 58. Gerard's going 2-1 Villa. Adrian's going 4-0. Sorry, King, not 41. And Kerry, who's been one of our biggest fans since the start of this show, she knows I am going to be 47 on Sunday. There you go. 3-0 Villa. Daniel's going 2-0 Villa. We need to buy Ollie Watkins. I think we've probably missed that boat, haven't we? HG? Should have bought him. years ago.
Yeah,
I know we looked at him at Exeter.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, was anyone ever really going to come and be Harry Kane's, like when Harry Kane can't be bothered kind of person? Ollie Watkins made a pretty good choice to go to Villa. I mean, it's like players want to play, and he's playing, and he'll be there now. He's their main man. I don't see, like, unless Man United were like, oh yeah, we want you, but they won't. So no. And plus, I think Watkins is a gooner as well. There's too many of those around, but I'd be surprised, very surprised.
Okay. Brighton, Sheffield United. Now, Brighton obviously have had a couple of wobbles after Thursday night football, but they're at home. They had a good win. I think they did win, didn't they? Ajax 2-0.
They won in Amsterdam. Yeah.
This is one of those random Premier League games where you could almost see Sheffield United randomly winning 2-1, but Brighton should win it 3 or 4-0. Do you know what I mean? This is the beauty of the Premier League. These random results can happen, but I'm going to go 3-0 Brighton.
Yeah, sadly, Sheffield United's random 2-1 win was last week. So sorry, Dave, but it was random for that to happen. Yeah, Brighton have enough. They really do. Whoever De Zerbi picks, and he does like to chop and change, but Brighton should have enough.
Yeah, I think 2-0 win as well for Brighton. 2-0.
Okay, Liverpool, Brentford. Brentford's had some good games, haven't they, against Liverpool, actually?
They have, but it's a home win. Every day of the week, that's a home win. Brentford will do well, but Liverpool, as I said, there's a lot of home wins there. Like, Liverpool have very good firepower. I know they lost in the Europa, but if anything, that just means that I imagine they rested a bunch of players to do that.
They made 9 changes.
There you go. See, I didn't watch any of the European games. I've had zero interest really at all. But you'd have to think that as good as Brentford can be, Liverpool should win that.
Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, I think the same. I think they'll have a reaction, especially after the last week of results against Luton and Toulouse. So, I think it'll be maybe 2 or 3-1 Liverpool, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone thought they were going to go to France to win, but they not to lose. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I read that on Twitter. I had to get it out there, and I almost fucked it up. Anyway, I'm going to say 3-0 Liverpool. West Ham. Oh, again, play Thursday night football. Were they home or they were home against Olympiacos, weren't they?
Yeah.
Forest aren't brilliant away usually, are they? I'd fancy West Ham to win that 2-0.
Aurier hat-trick. Come on, mate. You got to do something. Well, that is more likely, but no. I just West Ham are that type of team. They've beaten some decent teams and they lose to some awful teams. But yeah, so let's go with 2-2.
I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Yeah, 1-1 draw. I think Aurier didn't play last game. I don't know if he's injured because I had that Ola Anya play for them, Forest, because he scored, didn't he? So, yeah, I think Forest are a weird team as well. But yeah, I'll go with 1-1.
I still can't believe. I mean, although I watch Sky and I get English commentary, I get the world feed here. I don't get Gary Neville, and it's weird. I think they said that Forest, since Steve Cooper took over, he's played 77 different players, which just I can't get my head around. Like, I know what they've done and I know the players that they, but I cannot. It's just such a huge amount of change. 77
only been there like 3 or 4 years, maybe.
Not even. I think it's just 2. That's the stupid thing.
Yeah, since it came up.
Yeah, because he took over and they got promoted that season, and then they were up last season.
Less than 3 seasons, and
mental, absolutely mental. But yeah, as long as they beat West Ham, I don't care.
That would be quite funny, wouldn't it?
It would be very funny.
Yeah. Chelsea against Man City. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously Chelsea have got their tails up because obviously they destroyed 9-man Tottenham with no defenders. And it took until the 94th minute to actually win the game properly. And we could have easily got a draw out of that game. But their tails will be up. They're at home. What do you think, HG?
I have, I mean, I'm not being funny. I kind of want Chelsea to win. Did I say that publicly? I kind of want them to win. Chelsea are, like you want mid-table teams to beat the good ones, and I mean not last week, but this week, I wouldn't be annoyed if it happened. I don't think it will. I think City will do enough because they tend to anyway. But yeah, let's say City will drop points and it's 1-1, I could see that. Like Chelsea were never that bad. Okay, the 4-1 flattered them, but still they were never that bad before then. So yeah, 1-1.
City enjoying football again. Chelsea ain't got a prayer. I think City are playing very, very well at the moment. Still, this is the sort of game that De Bruyne wins, and he's still out, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I gather I didn't see the highlights, but I gather Doku was amazing. Jeremy Doku was amazing last week, and was it set up for and scored one of the 5 goals?
Yeah, he had a very good game. Yeah.
Norman saying 2-0 City. Chelsea do well against better sides, but 2-1 City. Agent Poch. It wasn't very Agent Poch on Monday, was he? Getting his.
What was the reaction like for Poch from Spurs fans?
Generally
I can't even remember.
Good, I think generally good. Like as always, the vocal ones tended to be very much like, no, he works for Chelsea, the guy's scum, but the normal ones who don't, exactly. I think most people appreciate what he did. Everyone appreciates what he did, but it's kind of what happened since. Like you've got some Spurs fans who will always think that Pochettino was kind of let down by the board. You've got some Spurs fans who think Pochettino had a pretty bad final year and probably deserved it. And you'll have Spurs fans who will hate him forever just because he went to Chelsea, or they'll hate him while he's at Chelsea for that reason. But I think generally in the stadium, it was, it wasn't negative.
I mean, I can't even remember pre-game now, but I'm guessing that they didn't do the usual. We welcome back to the club.
It was tough because they had all the Remembrance Day stuff before the game.
Of course they did. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And that
went straight into it, didn't they?
Yeah, it would subdue the crowd. Like every game, you want the teams to come out, you want the fans to start cheering, you want the game kind of starts then. But when you have, obviously you need to have it, but when you have something like that, then it means that the whistle goes, but everyone's a bit like, oh, now we're going to do it. Yeah. But no, I think Pochettino. I don't think anyone in the cheese room really wanted him back in the summer. I think we all thought, actually, as good as he might be, those days should be done.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we were happy that he went to Chelsea either. But you know that he's got to work, and they were. I mean, at that point, the only real side that were looking at employing him. So yeah, it's a rough one. But I do think that whenever he leaves Chelsea, whether it's this month, next month, or December, that very quickly that Chelsea stink will fade a little bit, and Spurs fans will go back to how they felt in May before he even went there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think I don't know if it came across on your TV, but it certainly did on mine, Dave. That the atmosphere was amazing, and even second half when they were really under the cosh and. We were down to 9 men. The fans really stayed with the players, and I think if that had happened 12 months ago under Conte, it wouldn't have happened because it was different atmosphere. The positivity that Ange's brought with the football and just his vibe, and he's just a normal bloke.
Spurs fans are the type of fans that could be winning 2-0 and would be thinking we should be 4-0 up. Right, that's generally who we are, and so to be losing to lose 4-1 to a team that a lot of Spurs fans really hate, it's the whole phrase of we hate Arsenal because we're Spurs and we hate Chelsea because we're human, that plays a massive role in this. But we lost 4-1, but everyone we've been so sick of watching our sides defend and have no interest in having the ball. And have no interest in kind of allowing the game to play us, right? And doesn't want to do it, and we love him for it. Even if it might be a bit ridiculous at times, every Spurs fan is like, you know what, fall over, do whatever. We're happy to see you trying again. But not another 4-1, please.
have to say, I'd turn the TV off by this point. But yeah, the Spurs fans did give the team a standing ovation, which was thoroughly deserved, has to be said, for the effort that the 9 players put in was just astonishing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. If you got any questions, we've got about another 10 minutes or so. Just stick them in the chat. I'm just going to bring up. You can join our Patreon group for just £3 a month. There's a beautiful picture of some bloke in a tux. And the website address is there in the middle, patreon.com/the cheese. It's the Cheese Room Podcast. This is the old slide. So I think it's on the banner. It's correct. It's the Cheese Room Podcast.
Okay.
You laughing at Caller?
I just think that, like, maybe if this is how we're selling ourselves, we might want to change it. I don't know what to suggest.
You're going to get like some exclusive content from Caller on his own.
Yeah, at Centre Parks. Yeah.
This is live. Did you not know?
But yeah. So yeah, please join if you haven't done already.
If you'd like to know what his right hand is doing, don't join. No. 9 players in 55 minutes against Chelsea. Was it 55 minutes? Because
the second half might have been.
Through the game, not left. Okay, yeah. With all the added time, it's probably longer, wasn't it? Is that so? I believe it was before a works due. He sent it to us.
Yeah, that's what he told us. We all know it was the Tory Party conference.
Looks like an advert for Madame Tussauds. Let's just bring that up again. Yes. It's just a slight bit of his hair that's slightly out of place on top. He's missed it with his wax.
I mean, Dave's probably too young for this, but there's a lot of Swiss Tony in Caller. I've always thought that. But Swiss Tony was a comedy character from what, mid-90s, late 90s? I don't know. But
yeah, before my time, I think.
Yeah, sorry, Dave.
We've got a genuine question, HG, and it's for all of us. Okay. What would be a successful season for Spurs and for Wolves? So I'll come to you in a minute, Dave. You can have a think. HG, what would be a successful season for Spurs?
I thought Europa League football would have been a successful season at the start of the year. I'd have been happy with top 5. Like, I'm assuming that 5th doesn't get Champions League this season, but I think that would have been good because it's 2 levels up where we were, and we would obviously, we'd sold Kane, but now, I mean, even with the injuries, you have to think that top 4 is doable, like based on how we've started result wise. Ask me again in 10 games, and maybe I'll be thinking about Europa League again. But successful has to be that we're playing European football and it's not Conference League, and that we actually are playing because the Europa League teams this season, like you look at again Brighton's group, they've got Marseille and Ajax and someone else who's half decent. Like the Europa League groups I think might be quite good next year too. But successful would be Europa League, and winning the FA Cup would be nice, but no.
I'm going to take you back because you're an expert on this. King Hoddle, 5th is very good, gets Champions League. Explain to King Hoddle why there's a very good chance it won't get Champions League for us.
Because England are currently 11th in the standings to see who gets those top 2 places, or the 2 places that are there. It's weird because right now, I think Turkey have the most points per team, and that may not stay the same. But every time Galatasaray beats United, it hurts England, right? So this idea that as much as we have lots of decent teams in Europe, and some of them are doing very well, the ones that aren't doing very well hurt you massively. Mm-hmm. So, currently England are 11th in the average, and you need to be top 2. And I think Italy are 3rd and Germany are 4th. So we've got, again, some massive catching up to do. And if 1 or 2 of our teams, if Man United and Newcastle don't get any kind of European football in the second half of the season, I think it's done. Like if they finish 4th in their group, I think it's done, and that Germany and Italy will probably be the 2 that come away with it. If Turkey don't have an amazing season with one of their sides, but it's not looking good for 5th to get Champions League. I mean, I know it's very early to say that, but England is behind some. I mean, I think Spain are 9th, but for Germany and Italy to be that high up, you'd expect those 2 to be the favourites to get the 2 extra places.
Yeah. What if City and Liverpool? I think the trouble is, King, because what you do, you divide the total number of points by the number of teams. So we've obviously got 8 teams in Europe. So for each point, it becomes 0.0125. If we've lost 6 of the teams, even those 2 teams getting to the end just won't create enough points for us in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, well,
Whereas HG said,
we almost need like 2 semi-finalists in each of the major 2 competitions, and Aston Villa to go very far to maybe catch up. But if you think Bayern are going to get to the semi-finals, which they might do, and we've started badly. That's the problem. Like you can't. It feels like like a league campaign. Like you can't win it in the first half of the season, but you can lose it, and that may well be what England has done. I'm already of the opinion that 5th won't get Champions League based on the scores that we currently have.
Okay, Dave, what's a successful season for Wolves?
I think a good season for Wolves would be just to stay out of the whole relegation battle, which I think we've got the quality to do so. I think after all the uncertainty from the summer, and Gary O'Neill coming in so late, he didn't have a pre-season. That would be good for Wolves. Successful season would obviously, I think, be if we can get anywhere near top half, or even nice little cup run in the FA Cup, which is almost a dream for any team, not just the teams outside the top 6. I think the top 6 guys like a cup run as well. So I don't know why people are letting off fireworks at this time, but mid-table. I think mid-table, top half would be a very successful season for Wolves, considering what's happened.
Yeah. Question, Dave put a question in the thing earlier about your Wolves sign. I'm sure you had that before. Is that new, or was it an old one?
Yeah. So I had an old. I think the first time I came on, I had an old one, and I think I had that one up last time I'd been on. But yeah, every time I come on, he always tweets about it or asks about it. So yeah, it's still
we like it.
It's really cool.
I get asked about it all the time. Basically, it was made by a subscriber, and then after about 3 months, he stopped making them, and he made. I've got an actual Talking Wolves logo that lights up there, but I prefer that one, to be fair. But the amount of people that ask me, and I actually messaged him and said, "Could you make, even if you make like 10, because I'll just sell them straight away." And he just says he hasn't got the ability and the equipment to make them anymore. So, which is a shame, but I like it too much to take it down, to be fair.
Does look good.
Yeah.
It really does. What's this? Dave says girlfriend was last time.
Oh yeah. Well, ex-girlfriend nowadays. So it makes it even worse.
Oh, here you go. Did you put this up? So that's the order of the current to get the extra 2 Champions League places. So Turkey first, the Czech Republic second, Belgium, Germany, Italy, Iceland, Holland, the Netherlands, France, Spain, Slovakia, and England. So going to be a struggle, isn't it?
You'd assume they'd hop over most of those.
I mean, so this is it. So it just means that, like, I think there are only 4 Turkish teams in Europe, which I find insane that it's only 4. But if there are only 4 and they all do well in their competitions, then they will have a good average at the end of the season, and it would be tough. But yeah, like if those Turkish teams, fall out of Europe in the last 16 of those competitions or last 32, then we can catch up. But if 1 or 2 of them go far, like I think a couple of years ago, when Feyenoord got to the final of the Conference League, Holland ended up with one of those 2 spots, which usually it's England and Germany or England and Spain, or it is a massive country. But if you get if a smaller country that has fewer teams has a very good year, then they will get that spot. There's no, I mean, England have done it. I mean, it would be very, very typical that England have pretty much always had one of those 2 spots, and then finally, when the law comes in, we have Newcastle not doing so great in a tough Champions League group, and we have Brighton, who had a couple of wobbly results in their Europa League, and West Ham lost in Greece. I mean, there's a number of things that you don't want to see, but it does feel very weird that, like, you're almost cheering on for teams you hate because it could help your team in the future.
Okay.
Iceland do not have more than 2 teams.
I don't know if it's a joke or not.
Yeah, Breidablik is one. Gift Orban scored a hat-trick against Breidablik last night. After having a pretty ropey Gift Orban was our striker of choice in the summer, Dave. Like a lot of Spurs fans were like, "Yeah, this is what we want to do." Yeah. And he's had a relatively poor well, for his standards,
is he going to be that striker that we're never actually going to sign, that we're linked with for about 6 windows or something?
He will go somewhere, but Spurs don't really have, it's weird. Spurs don't have striker depth because it's Son and then a bunch of kids, but there are a bunch of kids that we all think could be doing something at some point. So do you want to sign another kid to join that group? Like, there are rumours that a lot of the Spurs staff didn't really like the fact we signed Veliz because we had Donley or Lankshear or Scarlett or Parrott or whoever you want to say that are still on Spurs' books. But it's a weird one.
I'm a bit confused. I don't know if MS isn't UK based, but I'm assuming it's to do with the fact that it's in Wolverhampton is why it's been shortened to Wolves.
It's a bit like why Tottenham Hotspur called Spurs, probably the same sort of thing, really. It's just a shortened version of Wolverhampton.
Dave, do you get upset when people say Wolves and not Wolverhampton Wanderers?
No, Wolves is what everyone says, really. I very rarely say Wolverhampton Wanderers myself. It's a bit weird when people say Wolverhampton, just Wolverhampton without Wolverhampton Wanderers, but no one gets upset about it, really.
Because
we've had Wolverhampton Wolves before. That's normally an American thing, though.
I saw in America it was the West Ham Hammers versus the I don't know what, and it was like, come on now, really? I
went to New York last Christmas, and I was wearing a Wolves coat, and there was a guy, Wolverhampton, woo! And I was like, no one. It's either Wolves or Wolverhampton Wanderers. You don't just say.
It's not like an ice hockey team.
We should totally call them Wolverhampton from now on. Just
Wolverhampton. It's like when I had a conversation with someone who was English about who Wolves were playing next. He was, we got Sheffield next, and it's just like, no, it's either Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it? So,
yeah. Okay, so we're
the only reason I say that is because a lot of Spurs fans seem to get upset that we're called Spurs. Like on a lot of the Premier League stuff, you'll see Spurs written rather than Tottenham.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
because I know in the same way that they've always been Wolves. I rarely say Wolverhampton Wanderers. I rarely hear Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah,
but it's still like when the Premier League has everyone in their name, and it's like we're not Tottenham Hotspur. We're not even Tottenham. We're just Spurs. Like I wonder if it's become that ubiquitous now that everyone just knows. That in fact, that most people say Spurs more than Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah,
I say Spurs fans will probably think there's a difference, but maybe if you're not a Spurs fan, I'm saying Spurs a lot myself, but it's a weird one.
There you go, a little bit of history from Daniel. Harry Hotspur, Northumberland, Knight. Sorry, I've just lost that question. Here we go. Lads, which has been your most improved player for Spurs and Wolves this season? Jacob Murphy is Newcastle's. I haven't seen enough of Newcastle to have commented on that. HG, who's our most improved player out of the existing players, not the ones we've signed?
Well, this is it. Used to be shite, but now he's all right. If you base performances of last season, then you'd say Bissouma, because Bissouma didn't play well for Spurs last season. But then we all know that Bissouma is a very good player, and last season was the outlier. Maybe Emerson Royal seems to get lots of improved player because he was so bad that first year, and he's worked his way up the ladder. Even if he's not first choice now, I think a lot of Spurs fans are happy. I think I even saw this week that he's one of the squad players that we can trust the most, because people don't have a great deal of faith in themselves, so they don't have a great deal of faith in Brian Hill. So improved. It's a tough one because. Can you change, having changed Conte for Postecoglou? Does that count? That's the biggest improvement, and an actual player. I don't really know the answer.
I was going to go for a couple of guys who mentioned it, probably Porro, because none of us thought he could play right back, and he's been excellent right back.
Yeah,
he's a right wing back. But yeah, Bissouma's a good shout because obviously he's a completely different player. He's the player we thought we signed, whereas Conte just stifled him and destroyed him pretty much. MS is suggesting Bissouma and Hwang. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, I would have said Hwang, to be fair. Like I sort of mentioned earlier on in the show, first couple of seasons a little bit slow from him, but this season he's really, really kicked on. And fingers crossed he carries on. I think he scored in every home game so far this season. So be interested to see what happens tomorrow.
Own goal.
Yeah. Hopefully not.
No, I mean, you could also say Son as well for Spurs. But again, like, it's because last year was just a terrible year for him. And this year, has he already outscored last season? He might have done. Certainly when it comes to league goals, he probably has.
He's close. He is close, definitely.
But it's difficult to, like, the biggest improvement all of our players made is that we changed manager. I mean, genuinely, that's it. Just changing the manager made all the other players suddenly better because they are now doing something that they are mostly capable of doing and not being asked to do something they don't want to do. And that's what we were last year.
Yeah. So earlier in the show, Stephen said, John, look at Spurs news now. Looks like bid for a couple of players. So I had a quick look. I did only see one, and it's this guy here, Sebastian Caceres, are we saying? How are we going to go with that surname, HG, do you reckon?
I think there's like the first C is a K and the second C is an S, like Caceres.
He's played for Liverpool, didn't he?
Say again? No, different person. That's Coates.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. This guy's 24. Plays for, I forgot which club now, but plays in the Uruguayan league. 6.5 million, they reckon we've been linked with, and I've seen there's a lot of articles about it. Whether it's the same article that's just been rehashed multiple times, I don't know. But
what are you suggesting, John? That no one knows anything and they just help each other? I guess I would be surprised, but it's cheap, right? And if that's what we're looking at, and we spent a lot of money in the summer. If we want to try and find improvements, we can't go out and spend another 40-50 million on a centre back. So yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if it went through for it to be him. But I mean, I'd
he actually played for Liverpool in Uruguay.
Yeah, like I'd never heard of Phillips, and we spent a fair chunk of money on him. So it's definitely possible, but I'd be surprised.
This might be a motive for you, HG. Porro is the new Lamella, but with skill, right? HG threats through and through. But he's injured, lads.
You can't be the new Lamella if you have skill. Like, that separates you from Lamella. That's the basic principle. Like, Porro has the famous S-housery that Lamella seemed to be loved by Spurs fans for having. But I think Porro is that kind of player who would wind other teams up. But yeah, no, he's much better.
He loves
than
a wind
Lamella.
up. Yeah,
much better. I mean, there are so many players that are much better than Lamella. It's just, I'm not saying that name anymore.
Will Levy open his wallet and back Ange in January? Do you think? Can't see us spending a lot in January. Do you think 2 or 3 players maximum?
It'll do. I mean, if we get rid of a couple, I mean, like if Lo Celso is wanted, and I think he probably is, then Lo Celso might get sold. It won't be for a lot of money, but it might be enough to pay for the Uruguayan centre back and to get Lloyd Kelly, who apparently Spurs were looking at it. But I don't think we might see another loan to buy thing that we saw with Porro and we saw with Kulusevski. That seems to be a very January thing with us. But no, I'd love to see us invest because we may need to thanks to injuries. But if we spend it in January, it won't be spent in the summer. I mean, and maybe there's something to be said for that, of actually saying, you know what, I'm gonna, like, if we get it in January, if we can find the players that we want, and that teams will want to sell them in January, which is genuinely not the case. But if we can do that, then it would make sense to get them in January and give them another 6 months. Like, there's going to be spaces in the squad. Perisic probably won't be named anymore. So Lloris is on his way out. Like, Dier could easily be sold. There are going to be spaces, and it might be worth it for Levy to say, you know what, we'll do it 6 months early on the players if we can get them. But
surely the assumption is, though, that if they spend the money, it gives them more chance of getting Champions League, which then puts the budget up for the future. Would be the logic, I guess.
I mean, yes. I mean, that all makes sense. I just, like, we know with Spurs, it's not like Spurs don't spend money in January, but it is always very much like, we're going to see the lay of the land. Because most of those players that are sold in January are players that teams don't want. Right? I mean, like, if you want them around, you're not really going to sell them. The only reason to sell in January is if they're out of contract in 6 months. And then you're thinking, right, actually, I want something in, no matter how important they are. But we can dream, but I think it's more, any funds will come from selling those players we don't want.
I think it's an interesting one. By all accounts, Everton contacted us to ask if we would sort of release the £10 million plus all the add-ons fee for Delhi, because if he plays another 7 games, they've got to pay us, and they can't afford to pay us. So, do we sort of let Delhi play for his mental health and everything, or do we change the deal? Who knows?
There would be something in it if he was at 18 or 19, that maybe we push it down the line a little bit and wait for the Premier League finances to come in or whatever. But when he's 7 games away, and I don't think he's made their bench once, it seems...
He's been injured, hasn't he?
Well, that I didn't know, but I don't get the impression that Everton are desperate for him to come back and be an extra option. So it just seems very early to consider those things. Although I think, if it got to it, Spurs probably would consider it. I genuinely do.
Yeah. Dave, what's that moving, Dave? Is that
car,
a car in the background?
What's going on now? Yeah, it's all I can hear. The fireworks still going.
Do you think Wolves did make any signings in January?
I think so. Yeah, I think a striker, number 9, is going to be a priority. I think. I think they need to look at the wide areas as well. I think Neto obviously is a big miss for us, and we haven't really got a like-for-like replacement for him, really. So I think that they're the type of players that Wolves will look at. Attacking options, which is good, really. But we are scoring goals, more goals, and we under Nuno in his last season, Bruno Lage and Lopetegui, we averaged less than a goal a game. Gary O'Neill's above that right now, and like I said, I think bar the opening game of the season, we've scored in every game so far. So things are looking better, and if we can add more attacking power, then brilliant.
So, I don't know a great deal about Wolves' front players. I know Kalajdzic is a big number 9 because I see him play for Austria, and I know that. But I feel like Mateus Cunha was more of a kind of central striker, right?
Yeah.
So when are you looking for more wingers that can chip in with goals, or do you still want that big number 9 like you kind of talked about?
I think they want a proper number 9, a proper goal scorer, because Cunha, I think, is better as a number 10 or even off the wing. I like him off the wing personally. I think he's got the ability on the ball that he can play off the wing. And he needs to add goals. He doesn't have enough goals in his game. Kalajdzic, I think, is a very good footballer, but he's not just a lump at the top of the pitch. I mean, you would have seen him play. He's got more to his game than that. But I think you do have to have a certain play style. And I think for a bigger side, like a top 6 side, that you're going to have loads of the ball and you're going to have loads of attempts on goal, I think he'd be a great option there. But for Wolves, then they're not going to have huge amounts of possession. They play on the counter-attack. It doesn't really suit him. And then obviously the other option is Fabio Silva, who I think will have a successful football career, just not in England and not at Wolves, full stop. So I think likely Fabio will be let go in January, whether it's another loan or permanent sale, and they will bring in another striker. But I think they will want that flexibility as well. You can buy, you get these wide players that can play centrally as well. Players, just to throw a name out there, someone like Wilfred Gnonto at Leeds, for argument's sake, can play central, but plays off the wing as well. Was wanted, I think, by Everton quite a lot in the summer as well. So I think Wolves will be looking at those sort of options, really.
And can I ask again about, you talked about Bellegarde, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw him play once when maybe it was the Liverpool game. I think the first half I watched that, and he looked a quality player. And then I know he got sent off in another game. But is he more of a central midfielder or a winger, or what would you say is his best position?
So I think he was signed more probably as a number 10, but he played again. He played off the wing a number of times for Strasbourg in France, and before he signed for us, I think he had 4 goal contributions in his first 3 games this season in France. And then, like you said, he had a really good debut against Liverpool, then got sent off against Luton, and then he's been injured since that suspension as well. So he came off the bench against Sheffield United and actually scored the goal for us. But I'm hoping if he's fit, he should start tomorrow. But he's not rapid. But he has got a little bit of pace. His ability on the ball is very, very good. So I think he'll be the one. But a very talented, very tricky player.
From that Liverpool game, it felt like he was willing to take people on no matter where he was on the pitch.
Exactly.
And so maybe that's why I saw him as a central midfielder, because he was doing it wherever he got the ball. But yeah, he looked like a quality signing. So I mean, obviously, I hope he does terribly tomorrow. But I think
he was almost the Nunes replacement. Wolves looked at for replacements, and he, in terms of numbers, in terms of style of play, is very similar to Nunes. But Núñez was frustrating at times, didn't add enough, going forward. And Bellegarde's already sort of surpassed that with that goal last week. So if he can really kick on and carry on, I think he's a player that will get goals and get assists to Wolves this season.
Okay, cool. Do it against Arsenal,
here, Dave.
please, Mr. Bellegarde.
Yeah. The lad in central midfield, I think he means Doyle. Was he at
Tommy
Sheffield
Doyle.
United last season?
Yeah, he was at Sheffield United last season as well. They gave, to be fair to them, they gave him a standing ovation last week. He got when he got subbed off. But again, he's been a player that's come off the bench, done really, really well. I thought he was fantastic against Newcastle when he came off the bench. He came off the bench against Bournemouth and ultimately won us the game. But I just don't think he did enough last week when he started. So I think against Spurs, we need a bit more steel in the midfield. And that's why, like I said at the start of the show, I'd start Boubacar Traoré or João Gomez.
Okay. And we're turning into the Cheese Room eBay account for sale. World Cup winner striker asking. I'm not sure Richarlison won the World Cup, did he?
No.
Asking for anyone who can score a goal. But
Olympics,
a World Cup strike anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah. You can have Richarlison. All yours.
I like Richarlison, to be fair. I do like him, but I don't.
You talk about Kalajdzic not fitting Wolves' system. Like Richarlison, no one fit Conte's system, whatever that was last season.
Yeah.
And this year, as a central striker for Ange, they're usually first-time finishers, which isn't Richarlison's game, right? He looks a bit of a fish out of water there. And we joke about how Marco Silva signed him twice before, that maybe Fulham might want him. But is it he's not a bad number 9. It's just if Ange really wants to go full Ange ball, where does Richarlison ends up being what Kalajdzic could be, which is that lump at the end of the game trying to, if you need a goal, which, maybe if we swapped the two, both teams would, and a bit of money, obviously, but we swapped the two, that both teams would probably improve by doing that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd probably agree.
Right, we're going for an hour 46. Please do click that like button. There's 107 of you watching, only 83 likes. Thank you very much for watching. Please click subscribe. If anyone else you know who's a Spurs fan, get them to subscribe as well. And Dave, tell us about your Wolves channel.
Yeah, so we're at Talking Wolves. So we do weekly podcasts after the game. So if you want to hear our thoughts, obviously after the match, that will be out Tuesday morning. But I'll do a reaction after the game tomorrow. We do a fans react as well. So regardless, if you want to see Wolves, if Spurs do obviously manage to get the 3 points, you want to see Wolves fans moaning and crying after the result, then jump over to our channel. But yeah, we're on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you want to keep up to date with Wolves, it's just at Talking Wolves everywhere. But thanks again for having me, lads. I enjoyed it as always.
Thank you for coming on again. And I presume Brendan will be back on Monday with the usual, the usual Monday night show, looking back at this game. And obviously Wednesday, if we can get a team together, we've struggled the last couple of Wednesdays. And next Friday, somebody will be here. Whether Craig's internet, apparently Craig's whole street, his internet's gone down. Just that's unfortunate. Call him.
He was on our show.
He's not a centre back. Yeah, typical. Any excuse to get out. He's gone to the pub, really, isn't he? So thanks very much for watching, everyone. And all I can say is, Dave, you can stay quiet at this point. Come on, you Spurs.
Let's make the best team called Spurs win. Come on, you Spurs.